the Big Friendly Swim podcast, and I'm the Big Friendly host. And today's guest is a Paralympic champion in the 100 butterfly, Mikaela Jenkins. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So, talk to me about your first experience, because if I'm not mistaken, your first international experience for the U.S. was the 2019 London World Championships. What did it mean for you to come away from that meet with three medals in addition to an individual gold?
Yeah. It was a really unique experience. It was hosted at the pool the 2012 Olympics and Paralympics were hosted at, which was a lot of fun because some of the athletes that had been to the 2012 games got to talk about their experiences swimming in that pool, and that was really exciting to hear. It shifts, so I was just eating up every single moment I was there. I loved the pool. It was super fast, and I was super grateful that I got to be a part of two relays and um, win the 100 fly.
So, what were your feelings going into that following year and the COVID delay? And then once you got to 2021 and you realized you were actually making the Paralympic team for the Olympics, what did it mean for you to have those experiences in addition to that COVID delay?
Yeah, obviously COVID was really, really hard in terms of finding training and being consistent in training due to pool shutdowns. And so I ended up moving out to the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center, which was really helpful in preparing me for games. Obviously games are a little bit different just because it was taking COVID precautions. So we tested every single day and we wore masks and we were encouraged to stay in our bubbles, which ended up being really, really good because I got to be super close with my already good friends coming into games, but we just got to all know each other on a deeper level.
So, for Paralympics, obviously it doesn't get as much coverage, unfortunately, as Olympics or World Championships. But what are some ways you'd want to see the Paralympic movement grow?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of different ideas that have been circulating that could help grow the movement. One of which is some other countries, including I think Canada, Australia, and Great Britain, all have their Paralympic trials with their Olympic trials at the same time. I think they take turns with events,
Yeah.
and I think that could be something if implemented would be really, really helpful in promoting this movement just because I didn't know anything about para until one of my coaches told me about it in 2016. So I was even unaware.
Yeah, I you talk about that, and I literally have on my other monitor right now. I was looking at the results from Canadian trials, where they have Olympic trials and Paralympic trials at the same time, and that's something I've always enjoyed about watching these international team trials is seeing the results from both, and I think the U.S. would benefit a lot from doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
So you going into your final year of college now, it became probably a balancing act of trying to manage academics and swimming. Tell me about the process of deciding to retire and what the conversations with family and friends were like, and the moment you realized okay, it's time to step away.
Yeah, I am majoring in molecular biology and I have a chemistry minor and I'm in the middle of applying to medical school. And so I've had a lot of schoolwork and it has been pretty involved the last couple years. And I think for me personally, it was really, really difficult to balance swimming at the level I needed to swim at and doing schoolwork at the level I needed to do in order to get into medical school. And I bet there's some athletes out there who could do it. I know a lot of the times if you are pre-med and you are swimming at that level, you'll take extra years to do undergrad, which is something I wasn't really interested in doing because I wanted to graduate with my friends. But I was trying to juggle both, and I'm a person who, if I can't put 100% into something in my life and I'm splitting myself up into a million tiny different areas, then I am very stressed out. And I also need free time. So I was trying to split myself between all the volunteer activities I have to do and school and swim and enjoying some free time and hopefully sleeping. And so that was really, really difficult. And I was fighting that battle for probably a couple years, like since I got to school. And my family and my coaches and my friends all knew what I needed to do. I was just being stubborn and wasn't ready to accept that. But this year, I really thought about it a lot, and I came to the conclusion that for myself, I needed to step down and take a break so that I could focus on my studies, which is what I want to do with my life, and keep swimming as a hobby and my senior season.
Speaking as a former biochemistry major, molecular bio was one of the things that killed me. Like it that class
Yeah.
just like broke me. I can't even imagine balancing that,
Yeah.
swimming at an elite level, and a chemistry minor at the same time. Like so many different. It's like you're trying. It's like the picture of like the guy holding like plates and cups on like his hands and on his elbows, like trying to balance all of
Mhm.
that. So now that
Yeah.
you're going into your final year, what are some of the academic challenges you're most excited for? Like you talked about applying for medical school. Like what are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I well, once retiring earlier this semester, I was really excited to just have more time to do school and feel less stressed out. I've been in 4 labs every single semester for the last three, and so one of my labs this year range from 5 hours to 3 hours, which is like you're putting in 20 hours a week just for lab, and then to
Yeah.
try to put in that much time for swim and do school. It was just too much for me personally to handle all of that. But I'm really excited to have one more semester of 4 labs, and then my senior spring, I only have my own research with Dr. Paz, one of the professors at GCC. So that's exciting. I'm also excited to take more chemistry classes my senior year because I'm finishing up my minor mostly next year.
How many organic chemistry classes are you taking? Or like how many have you done?
Yeah, I took two, OChem 1 and OChem 2. I just finished, I'm a junior, so I just finished Biochem 1 and Biochem 2, which maybe this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Biochem 2 is harder of a class than OChem is. I think OChem 2 is a lot of like content that you have to learn in a short amount of time, but I think difficulty-wise, Biochem was what got me. I had to work really hard in that class. But I'm gonna audit advanced organic because it didn't quite fit in with my schedule, but it's with one of my favorite professors. And so he was like, "Yeah, just come on in whenever you want." So by the time I'll graduate, I'll have taken three organic classes.
I remember like my first like because pre-COVID I was a biochem major and I loved it. Like I loved the lab work. I loved being involved and like being hands-on and like that was the way I'd process stuff from lectures was by applying it physically in a lab. So when
Mhm.
COVID hit and it was all like online lab simulations, I just lost all of that ability to like process the information and remember it. My
Mhm.
first in-person class after we came back from COVID was organic chemistry.
Mm.
And I remember
Yeah.
like that was it just broke me. I was
Yeah.
done. It was like and I really wish I part of me wishes I'd gone back and like kept doing it, but part of me also knows like it was not gonna work out.
Yeah, a lot of my friends who experienced the same thing ended up having a rough year of OChem just because they went online, and then their first semester was completely online. So second semester, which is the hard semester for OChem, that was always tough, I heard.
Like the beeline from being a biochem major to switching to journalism happened so fast. So
Yeah.
this was something I was really interested in asking you about because, funnily enough, this is the first time that I've had the honor of interviewing a Paralympic athlete. It's just I just haven't had very many people who've wanted to. Talk me through adjustments in training. So at 8 months old, I believe it was a Symes amputation is what it's called, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's when
Sinus
you.
amputation is where they fuse the tibia and the fibula together so that it doesn't move separately. And so I still technically have like my heel pad, which means that I can weight bear pretty well. And so walking
Okay.
around isn't as much of an issue.
Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't know that actually.
A lot of it, yeah. Um, a lot of adjustments for training mostly occur with like tempo of my kick in relation to my arms. But the biggest thing I've had to work around was my start off the blocks. Just because of the angle of my amputation and the type of block, a lot of the times I was like really rainbow diving a lot. And we were trying to get myself to stop doing that because I was always the last one off the blocks and it was causing me to gain time. And I worked with my now college coach, and we came up with the idea of like holding the blocks on the side so that my center of mass is in front of the block, like towards the water, which made my dive a lot more streamlined. So, fortunately for me, I haven't had to make too many changes just because I was amputated so young. I learned to do everything with a limb. But there have been some things throughout the years I've had to work around.
Now, do you wear a prosthetic for the amputation?
Yes, to walk around every single day, I do wear a prosthetic, but I don't when I swim.
Okay, I figured that would be the case. I figured it probably wouldn't like being in the water.
Yeah, it's pretty much dead weight. USA Swimming doesn't allow it anyways, so I wouldn't
Okay.
train with it, but it is pretty much dead weight.
So, what have been some of your favorite memories, like now that you're retired and you've had those about 4 years competing at a Paralympic level? What are some of the favorite memories you've had?
Yeah, I think some of my favorite memories include Worlds in 2019. Me and my best friend Julia, we both won our first ever World Championship gold the same night, within I think like an hour of each other. She won it in the SM7 200 IM, and I won mine in the 100 fly. Um, and so that was really unique because we just got to celebrate together and that made us really excited looking forward to games. And I think for games, one of my fondest memories was swimming the 4x100 medley relay, where we did win gold in Tokyo. And that was the last time for a while. I don't think they're gonna plan on bringing it back, but because relays are now mixed gendered, so that was the last cisgendered relay that we'll have for a really long time for para. And it was also the first time they had won gold in like many, many years since like the early 2000s at a game. So that was that was a unique experience, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I'm really close with like Jessica Long and Hannah and Morgan Stickney, and so being up there with them was something I will look at in remembrance for a very long time.
So they no longer are doing like just one gender on relays, like it's all mixed relays now.
Yeah, it is, which I has been really, really helpful for some of the countries that have a really good combination of girls and guys. For the US right now, I didn't think, at least when we were in Tokyo, that was a little bit more rough for us. So I was grateful to have cisgendered relays.
So, what was the moment for you that you realized like competing at an elite level was possible, and then what were your emotions like the moment you realized that you'd made that Paralympic team?
Yeah, I first realized in 2016 when I went and got classified for the very first time, and Queenie Nichols, she was the head of US Para Swimming at the time, she told me that I was really, really good for swimming like 2 days a week. And so that if I went back and tried training and really amped that up to see what I could do. And so I was like, okay, why not? And I remember her pulling me aside after, I think, I want to say it was like 2018, I think, but I was at a meet in Canada in Montreal, and I had a rough 100 fly, and I was really bummed out because I really wanted to break a certain time goal at that period. And she pulled me to the side and she was like, Mikaela, like, not only do you have a shot of making games, you have a shot at medaling. And I thought she was absolutely bonkers. I was like, no, there's no way. Like the girls at the time were so fast. And like the world record is still a 102 in the 100 fly, which I think is close to an Olympic trials cut for able-bodied swimmers, if that tells you anything. Like the girls were really
Yeah.
fast. I was like, no, like there's no way I don't have a shot. And I remember just feeling really inspired when she told me that, and that made me believe that I could do it.
You know, I like through all these interviews I've done, I've always been told stories from athletes of like the first moment they realize that they could make the team, and like for some people it's like I have an interview with a guy named David Plummer tomorrow, whose first Olympic trials was in 2004, and when he finally made the Olympic team, it was 12 years later. And it's always amazing to me, like hearing the stories from people about like that moment when they realized, when like the light flicked on of like this is possible, and then navigating from that point to actually realizing to realizing the potential that they've been told or they've been shown that they have.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely, it helps when you have people you trust encourage you along in this like path. And
Yeah.
that also kind of brings me back to what you were asking about how I felt making the team. And the way trials works for para, it's based off of world rankings. And at the time we would go and we'd swim our events at trials, and then they sat us down over Zoom and they announced who made the team. So I had a pretty good idea that I was making the team, just because I think I was seated like first or second in the world in my event. And so I had a pretty good idea that I'd be making the team, but it was really nice and it was very exciting to hear. And then we all kind of celebrated afterwards, which was fun.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know you're there, but like it's nice to finally just hear it and hear that it's happening.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, definitely.
like earlier this year, I'd reached out to people at USA Swimming, and I was like, "Hey, I'm wondering if there's like media applications for Olympic trials. Like, how do I get into that? Like, how do I apply for that?" And they told me, they're like, "Oh, we're like you'll be accepted when you apply. Like you're good. You just got to do the application process, and like and then like eventually you'll get the email saying you're accepted." And like in like the 2 months after I did the application process, I was sitting on like pins and needles the whole time. So I get what you mean, like that
Yeah,
feeling of like I know that I'm there, but it's nice to finally hear it.
yeah, definitely.
So I've been trying to include in interviews more often, just asking people some like short, fun questions that conveniently fit very well into Instagram reels.
Yeah.
Um, so if you could only swim one event that's not the 100 butterfly for the rest of your life, what would that event be?
Ooh. So I swim two fly for college, and that's probably my best event, but that's not an event in para. But I'd probably say 200 IM, because that's like my fun race, that it's my third event that I swim in college, and it's like a game to me to see how I can work with my strengths and perform my best at it. So I really like the 2 IM.
Speaking as a 400 IMer, I also like when my coach lets me swim the 200 IM because I get a little bit of a break. But it is fun to
Yeah.
like play that game of like trying to figure out where to play to your strengths in a race that involves like all four strokes.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm, well, obviously I'm a butterflyer, but I think my next best stroke was probably breaststroke, which is not a combo you normally have. But my backstroke like sucks. So working with all of that is always interesting.
It's actually a combo that I feel like is a bit of an underrated combination because I think a lot of people don't realize, or a lot of people don't know the history behind breaststroke and butterfly, and how like butterfly originated from people experimenting with their breaststroke. It's like something I teach my swimmers all the time is if you like watch body position on breaststroke and butterfly, It's generally the same. It's just different movements from your arms and your legs. Sorry, that's my inner swim nerd came out. So
Yeah, no, that's really neat.
it was a guy at Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken, in like the 30s and 40s, who started experimenting with like swinging his arms forward on his butterfly or on his breaststroke, and like doing a dolphin kick. And I think it was the 1952 Olympics, so coming right out of World War II, that the butterfly was first on the program at an Olympic Games.
That's cool. I actually didn't know that.
It's such an interesting piece of history to me, just because I absorb swimming content on a like an encyclopedic level.
Mm,
But it
yeah,
like
no, that's really neat.
it's fun hearing people be like, "Oh, I'm a good breaststroker and a good butterflyer," but like, why is that connection there? So
Yeah,
tell me about
no,
some of
that's
your
cool.
favorite sets that you've done, and like some of the hardest sets that you've done throughout both your college career and even like before that.
Oh, that's tough. I'm gonna have to like now reach my brain and see what I can remember. One college set that kills me every time, but it's always a good set, is we do like 13 200 IMs best average, but in between those, I forget, it's either like 25s or 50s. We're doing pace for different strokes. And so you'll do like 450s or like 425s, and then you'll do another 2 IM, and you keep doing that. And that's always an intersession training or winter training set that we do. Additionally, my coach has me train 4 a.m. even though I don't swim it anymore. I did swim it my sophomore year, but we both agree that it helps my 200 IM and my endurance to be a little bit better. And so another set that I'll do with the 4 IMers is we'll do repeat 4 IMs, and then we'll do like four 400 IMs, three 300 IMs, two 200 IMs, and then like four 100 IMs at the end, and that always kills me. In terms of fly, there's lots and lots of good fly sets that I've had. But one of them in high school that used to absolutely murder me was a set, and it, I think, had a total of 2 rounds of eight 100s fly, but we were supposed to hold specific times for it. And the girl I would do the set with ended up to going on to swimming D1 at South Carolina. So she was really good, and so trying to keep up with her was always tough.
I like it's such an underrated thing that people don't realize, that I'm glad more and more coaches are picking up on, is that like when you want to swim like a 200 IM or a 100 butterfly or a 100 freestyle, the best way to train for it is to swim the event that's double the distance.
Hmm.
Which was unfortunate for me, because when I was in college, I was the butterflyer on our medley relays, and my coach would
Mm,
always put me in the two fly.
yeah, it two fly is always a rough event. There's no way around it.
I like I've gone back and forth over the years of trying to decide between if the two fly or the 400 IM is the hardest in terms of just like physically taxing on your body.
Hmm.
Like I still feel like it's the two fly, because on the 400 IM you get like the switches. You get to breathe a bit on backstroke before your legs scream on breaststroke.
Yeah. See, I would probably say 4 IM, but also I would say some of my most painful races ever have been 200 fly. Like my two fly at finals at our pack championships this year, I swear is the most painful race I've ever raced in my entire life. Like I crawled out of the pool. It was horrible. So, I think both are exponentially difficult. So,
I think like I feel like you've with like swimming, you've got to put events in different categories of difficulty. Like 50
mhm,
freestyle is a difficult event in itself, just because of the need to make sure you get every little thing right. But it's like the 400
mhm,
IM is difficult in itself because you need to be able to train all four strokes and like have like a mastery of all four strokes. So, like there's so many
Yeah.
different categories you could create of difficulty.